we were actually talking about, the set that graveyards are like a stagnant, static set that have basically given us the concept of death and burial, but have
Yes.
never really expanded or evolved through the apparent population growth and death rates. So they've remained kind of like the cemetery behind us, just sort of like this. So you acknowledge, your brain goes, oh yes, that's
Mm.
how they bury people. Oh yes,
Yeah.
graveyards. Oh
And they're
yes,
always like either
tombstones.
really old and creepy with the tomb, the gravestones falling over and stuff, or they're brand new, like a military, brand new, nice, clean mode.
Yeah.
But that's all we get, right? And we don't ever see new ones. We don't see these cemeteries expanding. I mean, so where are all these people going? Because there's a lot of people die every year. Where are all the graves?
Yeah, and it is interesting that they decided to like reinvent the cathedral to include graves.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So we're looking at cathedrals, right? As free energy sort of healing type machines, frequency modulators, if you want, but all about the good vibes. And of course, what do? They surround them with dead bodies. It's a grave
yeah.
situation, I tell you.
Yeah, the way that Cam and I would normally disseminate such a lofty question would be, well, I certainly would start with, okay, let's just look at what's obvious. What is obvious to me? And one thing that I would say is a comparative obviousness to me is this concept of bots.
Oh,
Bots. So we've got like this idea of, well, I mean, we live with it all the day, the social media bots, the online bots. This ghost realm that now exists as human beings. And we see them as comments, commentary, algorithms, websites, advertising, ads, like people, or lots and lots and lots of. I mean, I don't even know how many real people are left online, Campbell, and there's two of us. Here we are, there's two,
there's
but not
two.
ma not many. I mean, we
No,
just see images of people that
but
aren't people.
we just don't know. Like the whole dead internet theory.
Yeah.
Like you would get these results and it'll be like, oh, 120 million results. And then you go back five or six, 7 pages and there's nothing there. So there's not all these results. And then, yeah, all the comments, even YouTube tell you they go through channels and they delete subscribers. And the reason they say they do that is they're trying to get rid of bots, right? There's bots everywhere. They start conversations, they get in, they start
How
controversy.
how
And
does YouTube,
they're not
man, like
real.
not know the
Dude,
difference between a human account and a bot? How do they not know? I mean, that's bullshit.
it's crap. And it's
And
interesting. You see a lot of these comments and you click on the channel. And there's no content. It's a brand new channel, no nothing, no picture, and it's just clearly they're bots, right? And they sit there and talk to each other. It's really interesting. So how many people are really on the internet? All the views and that we see on
I wonder if
YouTube
we got
and
a photo.
TikTok. We don't know that they're real. You see, oh, this video got 1 million views. Well, did it? And by 1 million humans, we just don't know.
Have you seen those pictures of like the bot factories? I was just trying to find one, but maybe I can't.
Oh,
Have you
where
seen
they
those?
have all the
Yeah.
the phones set up.
Yeah, it's just like warehouses, ceiling to floor, wall to wall of phones lined up. And they're all like commenting and like creating the narrative, swaying the narrative. So like comment. I mean, my channel is just so funny on the bot side of thing because in as we all know, in like 4 years, I have got not one new subscriber, which is fucking hilarious, really. Comparatively to in real life, how many people Campbell and I meet along the way who watch our show. So I can tell you from my first-hand experience that nothing about the statistics or anything to do with the numbers of people watching YouTubes and real in any sense of the word. Yeah, like that. Yeah, you go. Like
Yeah.
a fucking, it's like this, but like I've seen ones which are like epic in epic proportions. And
Oh,
they're just
gosh.
basically
I failed.
paid.
I failed in my bot picks.
No, it's all right, buddy. Just like they basically sway the narrative. Of course, we know this. This is not new
Yeah.
information, but like I mean, I just think it's a very valid question when we start to look at, well, if the
Well,
internet is full of bots,
you
you
can you
know,
can you can buy subscribers
you
like for
can.
whatever, right? For YouTube or Facebook, whatever you're on, and they're all bots. They just created. They just created. And if people are
Because
starting channels like that, then how much of this is real?
And like we know that like today's generation, the one that's now like in their sort of teens into their 20s, they're like obsessed. You know, their
Mm,
whole concept of
yes.
economy is about likes. Their whole
Yeah.
sense of success is gauged by this. So of course there's a massive industry accommodating for
Behind
that.
that. Yeah, the dopamine
Like
effect.
so what's the fucking point? If we know that you can buy an audience and we know that no number, statistic, or algorithm online is accurate or real in any sense of the word, then we have to start looking at, well, you know, if social media is infiltrated with, with maybe the word inflated with bots, you know, potentially real life is too. And I
Yeah, but
think
yeah.
it's
I mean, we know social media, right? Certain things are promoted, certain channels, certain videos, and others are, held back, shall we say,
yeah.
banned or whatever. So, yeah, what's going on in life? We covered China as well. Of course, you went there last year, and then we covered it finally hit the mainstream, right? That there's no people there.
I,
All these people are disappearing, and people are wondering where all the
China.
people are.
Mm.
And we've seen a few other videos that came out of Vegas was empty. So, the living world seems to be empty. But if we go by the numbers that they tell us, 8 billion and those figures, so the amount of people that died, there doesn't seem to be enough graveyards, right? Enough new cemeteries. And yes, well, I think what is it, 70% get cremated
I
now?
mean that we can't rely on any statistics there, but yes,
That's
the
what they
cremation
say. So we're
industry is
talking
epically
30%.
growing. Yep.
But even
Yep.
with those numbers, it just doesn't match. We went
Yeah.
through the US numbers in one of our other videos of how many
Oh,
people die, how much space
it's
it would
out.
take to bury them, and how many cemeteries they've got. And they were way, way, way behind,
Yeah,
like
it's out by
acres and acres.
100 million or something
Yeah,
retarded like that. It's
crazy. Yeah, yeah.
insane. So, okay, so there's a lot of theories, Cam, floating around on this topic. You know, obviously the birth and, but we'll start with the most obvious one, which is the birth and death statistics are like completely fake,
Like,
basically. Well, of course they would be, right? Because when we trace back essentially how that works, which we'll talk about, but actually who owns the end result of that? Well, it's always going to be the same people, right? It'll
hmm,
all go back to the same corporations. And, you know, it is a
corporations.
corporation for sure. This
Hmm.
is the business of life and death. And this is the business, as we would say, of the ghost people, Campbell.
Yes, yes, yes. The straw men, the ghost straw men that are running around. And of
Ghost
course,
people.
this has been put out as NPCs, that people aren't, like literally, are they just projections or something? That's kind of the video game,
Well, it's a
scenario, which,
fair.
which yeah, we can't sort of prove or disprove that one at the moment. But as far as like created people, if they're creating these numbers and creating these ghost people, all these figures for people that don't actually exist,
Mm.
then those people still need to show up in their figures of dead people.
Yeah,
So the
because
most
there's a lot of
obvious
benefit.
question, I
Hmm.
guess, is that there aren't that many people being buried or dying even, right?
That's a good. Yeah, I don't think there's very many people being buried these days. I mean, it's interesting that this one question has um, followed us through our whole truth process through decades. Like, there's one question. I mean, I know when we built the show for this Mulaney tour. It's very obvious, you know, like when you actually bank up all the wars and genocides and just in the last 200 years, I mean, we can go
Mm.
back through history, whether they happened or not, through the Crusades and Inquisitions and all the other nastiness that's happened since the invasion. And yeah, I mean, basically, like if you were to sort of kind of tally all that up, you're looking at least, you know, a seventh of the, maybe more, one seventh the
A
entire
lot.
population of the realm.
Mm. Yeah, I
So
saw a video on Napoleon and the battle, I think it was Waterloo, supposed to be 50,000 mortalities, and they've only ever found two skeletons.
yeah, I know.
And,
Yes,
and
this is what
he,
became so obvious to us.
yeah, yeah. So one theory he put forward is, and we've heard this before with the mummies of Egypt, is he said that they were being ground up and used as fertilizer.
Yeah. I mean, and that's actually quite a popular, that is actually quite true. bodies. Well, I mean,
Blood and
I
bone,
can't
man. We
say
used
that
to
because
use it
nothing's
when I
true,
was a
but
kid. Dad
yeah.
used to buy barrels of it from the abattoir, not human, but yeah, blood and bone.
Blood and fucking bone, which we all use in our garden. But blood and bone, people, is a commercial product. Now, you're
Mm.
going to just assume that that's like animals, right? That's our assumption on the topic. But gosh almighty, when you hold up things like blood and bone for sale up against a never evolving graveyard scenario, you think, oh, no, no, no. Uh, I mean, it became obvious to us because one of the questions that is so obvious is, like when you go through these great battles and destructions and wars, or you go through the element of different cultures through history, one would assume that we are living in a realm that's just layers and layers of bodies. One would assume that
Mm.
because there's just been so much death,
Yeah.
especially, you're right. So Australia is very vast, but when we go to much more smaller regions around the world, like England, for example, which is famous for all its like lovely ancient wars and warlords, you would assume that you would at some point bury or dig up a body while you're excavating buildings or cities or roads or blah blah blah.
Mm.
And maybe they do mildly, but we never hear about it. You'd think the everyday person would eventually come across
Yeah.
remains of bodies, but
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, no,
Well,
it
all
never
these
happens.
battles, they tell us, would have been held fairly close, or probably under what are now cities, right? When they used to be fields, and they weren't out in the desert, were they? And so there should be, there were tens of thousands of people dying.
I
Like
mean,
there should be mass
yeah,
graveyards everywhere.
millions can.
Yeah, millions over all the
And
battles and all the centuries, in their
I mean,
story.
whole city deltas were destroyed. Like what we saw happen in World War II, for example, with the destruction of Europe
Yeah.
and the destruction of Germany. Like these are whole city deltas absolutely destroyed, and so you would say account for much death. But then you've got to ask, like, who the fuck even like gauges like the amount of death? Like the only way you could do that is if individuals were registered somewhere else. And with war, what's so famous about war is it forces terrible like immigration. It forces
Yes.
movements of
Yeah,
whole cultures
displacement.
to
Yeah,
to
yeah,
move
yeah.
away, to escape.
Yeah,
So
and
then
all the
you've got
records get destroyed.
so that is like, oh yeah, like 6 million Jews or 1 million Russians or 22 million Germans or like these numbers. They're so crazy that you've got to put it down to this is death fear programming process. This
Yeah,
this
and
because
numerology, right? You know, it's all they love their numbers, but
yeah,
it just doesn't make sense. I mean, even, the Bolsheviks, right? I mean, we're talking, what was that, 60 million or something
yeah,
ridiculous?
ridiculous
Like
numbers.
ridiculous
I
numbers.
mean, the colonization process, the whole, go to and steal all the locals and move them to another place and enslave them, like that accounted for across Africa and Asia, like that those places accounted for like 100 million apparently. So, I mean, we're talking basically a complete, like to me, this is a completely we would never know probably or understand what's going on in this way, but it is definitely a fact, I feel, Cam,
Mm.
that something is going on with our death and births that is very nefarious.